Welcome to Derry. The conclusion just happened, so let's talk about it. We got a lot more of Pennywise the Dancing Clown in this episode, and it took me right into the Grinch. You know, Christmas is around the corner. Maybe they did that on purpose, but he was really feeding Grinch in this episode. He even does the thing where the Grinch is like, tough crowd, tough crowd. He even says that, tough crowd. And I'm like, huh. He's full on Jim Carrey. He's skipping and he's, skipping towards the kid. I'm thinking, there's a scene where he has to catch the kids. They've got the shard, which they call the dagger. They've got a shard of his ship, which again I think is maturing shell, and they need to put it into a certain spot in order to stop him from escaping. Okay, but he knows that it'll stop him and drag him right back to his sleeping area where he's supposed to be. But instead of full on running after him, he's like da 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 da. He's skipping. And I'm thinking, why is he skipping? What you're skipping? What's that all about? The Losers Club encounters Pennywise, and they're doing stuff like throwing water in his face, talking about this is sulfuric acid, and hitting him with the slingshot because they think that it will hurt him. And apparently, around Pennywise, he generates, they call it a fog. He generates a fog where things that you think are happening are actually happening, at least to you. But unfortunately, this is one of the reasons that he can get into your mind and do things and make you see things, make you feel things, and he can unalive you because of that fog. Unfortunately, that fool's in the fog too. So if you're thinking something, if you're thinking, oh, this slingshot would kill a multi-dimensional quasi-demon god, then that slingshot that's just holding a rock will do it. But so in the show, the soldiers, a couple of the soldiers, are shooting at Pennywise. The bullet shouldn't really do anything on a bullet. You shoot a vampire, it's going to probably still coming. You shoot a werewolf, it's probably still coming. Pennywise is way more powerful, way more multi-dimensional, super powered, supernaturally powered than those things, but the bullets are affecting him, And it's because these soldiers, these airmen, are aware of what a bullet does. And they're thinking about it, they're shooting them, and they're thinking, well, this will do that, and it does. I think that's the part two to the reason he scares people. Part one is because fear seasons the meat, in the words of Stephen King. But also, if you're scared, you're not thinking, well, if I punch him in the face, he'll fall. I mean, I am Mike Tyson. You'd be thinking that. And it would probably work. But if you're terrified, you're not thinking about attacking him or fighting him or whatever. So while you're in that brain fog, he can do things to you, but you won't have the mental capacity to do things to him, because clearly it works both ways. Those little kids, one of the kids reaches in and pulls his little heart from his chest in the movie. Another one throws water, it's sulfuric acid, and it burns him. Another one hits him with a slingshot and the rock hurts him. That stuff shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. He's sort of like Freddy Krueger in that way, where he enters your dreams, and they had the movie with Freddy Krueger, Dream Warriors, and in the dream, one guy was a superhero and he could make himself super strong, and another guy was a wizard, abracadabra, and they could do all of that stuff. They did change. They did have power, but just not Freddy level power. He was still able to unalive them. With Pennywise, kind of shifted it towards Pennywise, same thing. You can have power over Pennywise. Dick Hellering, is trying to stop the beast. He's about to attack one of the kids, and he just freezes. And he doesn't move, and I'm like, oh, the shard must be over there. But it wasn't. It was Dick Hellering. He was in Pennywise's mind, if you can call it his mind. He was in his space. And he's trying to convince him that he's the actual guy that he's emulating. Because Pennywise, it's the Deadlights. And the Deadlights have taken on multiple forms. But it really enjoys the form of the original Pennywise, a human that was the dancing clown. So he killed and emulated that guy, and he just stuck with that form. He digs it. But Hellering gets in his head because he's in that fog too, and he tries to convince Pennywise that he isn't the clown from space, he's the dude, and he just doesn't remember. And I was thinking, wow, what's going on here? Because apparently I was in the fog too. I didn't know what was happening. But Pennywise is like, get off me. What are you doing? Don't touch me. I'm a god. I'm a destroyer of worlds. And the way he said it gave me full-on Jim Carrey. You know, Jim Carrey could have done that role at that time, at least that scene. And he's like, yeah, wait a minute. And then he looks down at the person that's talking to him's hand, and it's because he thinks he's seeing one person that's Caucasian, or it's a white guy. He looks at the hand and he sees a black person's hand, and then he goes, wait a minute. And I'm like, he doesn't sound scary. He sounds comical. He sounds the Grinch. Jim Carrey has the Grinch comical. And then he pulls the mask off, and he can see that the person that was talking to him, trying to convince him, was Hellering. And he's like, you almost got me. And then he goes back to fighting everybody. That also goes to the fact that Hellering's got the Shining. So he's got a level of mental power. But it didn't work the first time he encountered the clown. The clown was his grandfather. He couldn't use his power on the clown. He was terrified. He was in the fog, and he was terrified, so his power he couldn't use his power. He couldn't manifest it. Now, he's scared, but he's not terrified. He wants to fight. You got that fight or flight thing that happens all the time, and he's full on fight, man. So he gets into the clown's head, and he can use his power. I say all of that to say this. Pennywise says, much like Dr. Manhattan, he exists in the past, the present, and the future. It's not linear to him. It's all a fog. The past happens, the present happens. He sees all these things at once. And he's talking to this woman, saying, telling her that her child killed him. But she's talking to a person. The person she's talking to is like 13. So she's like, what? I don't have any children? And he's like, I don't know. I get confused. It's the past, the present, the future. It's all one thing. He feels compelled to explain this. I don't know if you viewing this have ever actually been in a traumatizing situation where you're running away from maybe a dog or or you're falling off of a cliff, or you're in a pugilistic encounter, you're in a fist fight. You never stop in the middle of that to explain what's going on. Adrenaline will not allow it. Common sense will not. Sanity will not allow it. But right when he's about to eat this girl, he stops and tells her the backstory of how he experiences time. What? Now I get it. As the people watching the show, it's good that we know, but he could have done it in some type of, I don't know, flashback or whatever, which for him a flashback could be happening in his future. But they could have done it another kind of way, but he just stops. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, hey, I get confused. Past, present, future, it's all the same thing to me. I see things in past, present. And there's evidence that that's how his mind works, because some of the posters that he posts around town, because he's posting the posters that he posts around town, one of them is a poster of a child that at that point hadn't even been born yet. So he's imagining unaliving people who hadn't been born yet. And this episode was good. It was a good conclusion, and it's clearly leading into the next episode. Because he tells this girl, your kid killed me, man. I'm gonna have to fix that. So how does he fix that? He's got to go to the future with the knowledge of what's going to happen and stop himself from falling into that trap. Or he's got to go into the past and kill the parents of that child that he was talking to, who will eventually have a child that is a part of the team that kills him. He might go in the past and wipe all of them out. I mean, if you knew right now every event, and you had it in your head, every event that happens in your future, and you could alter it without creating a dual timeline, you could just change your own future. Wouldn't you bet on the lottery? Wouldn't you tell that person that you used to be in love with the right thing so you could still be in love? Turn another corner and we never would have met. Wham. There's all kinds of things that you would do. I'm a big comic book guy. There's a guy called the One Who Knows. He's part of the Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics. Sylvester Stallone plays him in the Guardian of the Galaxy movie, but they haven't shown his powers yet. Not the ones from the comics, at least. His primary power is he's born, he lives his entire life, and then say he's 26 and gets hit by a car. Instantly, he comes back, he's born again, he has complete photographic memory of every single event that happens in his life. And when he steps off that curve at 26 and gets hit by that motor vehicle, this time around, he stays on the curve for an extra couple seconds. Car goes past him. And then he walks by and he continues his life, and now his life is a little bit longer. But eventually, when he perishes, his life starts all over again, and he lives his life with the full memory of everything that happens. So in the comic book, he's mostly just kind of sitting there watching other people, because he's waiting on particular events, and he's in no danger. If someone were going to come behind him and hit him with an energy blast, he knows. He knows. He is the one who knows. He knows everything because he's lived the exact same events. Now, in his timeline, nobody changes their events. So if someone was going to attack him from the back, and he's lived that moment 37 times, on the 38th one, the guy doesn't decide not to attack him from the back. It's the exact same thing every single time until he dies. And then boink, he starts all over again. And as a baby, he comes out of the womb with 100% knowledge of everything that transpired in his life until that moment, which he can now avoid. That is essentially what is happening in Pennywise's life. He knows everything in the past, the future, the present. That's why one of the reasons why he's so difficult to deal with. But he gets dealt with sometimes. So I'm thinking, if he knows he's going to be dealt with and the little kid's going to snatch his heart out and hit him with the slingshot and all that kind of stuff, he's in the past right now, telling them what happened in his future. So the acknowledgement of that means that he could change it. So I think that they're going to change his demise. And it's probably one of the reasons why he's a cosmic entity. Because you could kill him on Monday, but Sunday he's going to be back because he just relived his life and he avoided whatever you did on Monday. He's essentially the clown who knows. So that makes him even more terrifying. Because one of the children asked another girl, she's like, well, if he can do that, if he can just go back in time and change stuff, then he'll just go back and, kill us or kill our parents. We're not going to exist. And the girl doesn't say, well, what we've got to do is, her answer is just, somebody else will have to do it. Because there's no way around that. I mean, how do you, because you can't change the future or the past. You can't do it. That car that was supposed to hit you when you was 26, if the person in the car knew what was going to happen and you were going to stop, they're just going to drive up on the curve and hit you. Because you don't know what they know. That just made Pennywise to me a great deal more terrifying. The guy in charge of the Air Force has revealed that his plan is not to take Pennywise and sick him on their enemies, but he's going to take Pennywise and release him in America because he thinks that a major attack by Pennywise on the U.S., and then they get 27 years to heal, would just make them stronger. And he's only going to take a few lives, and then after that, we'll be stronger. He's not understanding the situation he's in. Pennywise only takes a few lives because it's like livestock. He can't wipe them all out. It'll be nothing for him in 27 years. So he grabs a few of them like chiclets, like hors d'oeuvres, and he throws a few in his mouth. A few of them he seasons throughout, the time that he's awake, and he eats those. Those are tasty. And then he has one big buffet at the end, right before he goes to sleep. He has a certain amount of time on Earth where he can terrorize. He likes terrorizing children because it's easier to do that, and I guess they taste sweeter. I've never had one, but that's what he does. And then, right before he goes to sleep, he has a big calamity where he takes several lives, 30, 50, 100, 300, and one big catastrophe. And then that satisfies him for 27 years. He can go to sleep. Unfortunately, he was going to sleep, but instead of trying to move his cage to Russia or wherever, they just opened it to let him out. He's the neighborhood dangerous dog. That one guy, when I was younger, there was one guy that lived in the neighborhood. He had a dog that was crazy dangerous. And it was one of those big Rottweilers. It was a great big, when I was a kid, a Doberman pit bull mix that was as big as a horse, because I was a kid. It was a gigantic dog that would run around and attack people. And I can't remember his name, but Duke is loose, and everybody would scream that, and everybody would scatter and run, jumping over fences, climbing on top of cars, whatever, to try to escape. You didn't even have to see him. If somebody just said that, the chances were better that you protect yourself. and then later find out they were joking, than to say, oh, that dog ain't loose, and then get mauled by this dog that could probably kill a velociraptor. So we were prepared for that. And every once in a while, for some reason, he left his gate open. And the dog just got out. It was terrifying. And we were not stronger. We might have been faster for it because we were running all of the time, but we weren't really stronger. It didn't really make us stronger. This guy wants to open the gate and let something a lot worse than a great big dog out. And he's thinking, the same thing, the same philosophy. It only take a few people. And in 27 years for us to heal, we'll be stronger. How is that a plan? I don't even understand his mentality. He must have been crazy from the beginning. But that was what he wanted to do. So he takes one of the pillars and destroys it. Poof. And it's like, there's nothing you can do now. That thing's loose. So Pennywise is trying to take his nap, siesta. He's going to go to sleep. And he lays down, and then they close up close up on his face, and you know he's going to open his eyes. The camera's closing up on his face, and then all of a sudden, bink, his eyes open, and I was like, oh well, that's a jump scare that everybody knows is going to happen. And he gets up and he gets out and he gets down. He wants all of the children. He's like, because I think that maybe that barrier is forcing him to take a nap for 27 years. That may be part of the perimeter that he's in. It's not just stopping him from leaving, it's affecting him. Because when that stone was removed and he could get out, he wasn't sleepy no more. He got up, he got out, he got down. He went out there and he got all of the kids he could find. He went to the school, he got the kids, he shoved his hand up the principal and was puppeting the principal, which is horrible. But he was puppeting the principal and he was making them talk to the kids, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, they can't see that dude ain't right. And maybe because I've watched the whole season, I just expected that. You know, watch a lot of horror movies, you expect horrible things to happen. So these were just little kids. They walked into the auditorium. The principal was behind the gate, behind the drapes, talking to him. But you could tell he was like, his head was like this, and his mouth was mech, 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 mech. And I was like, that dude, he's got a hand shoved up him. That dude's a puppet. You know? He wasn't a marionette. He wasn't, there wasn't no strings, but he was definitely a puppet. And then Pennywise showed up, opened the gates, everybody freaked out. About 6 or 7 of them tried to get out of the auditorium. The rest of them just stood there looking at Pennywise and screaming. I'd have been one of the ones trying to get out. Why would you stand there and look at he was like 8 or 9 feet tall, covered in blood. There's weird pictures behind him, and he's got his hand shoved up the principal, who is clearly dead. And they're like standing there talking about, are you nuts? If there was a time to get out of there, this was a time to get out of there. And they didn't. They just stood there and screamed. And I was like, what are they thinking about? They're dead. And I was like, the ones that are running for the door might escape, but probably not. But at least they tried. I couldn't understand it. Only like a few of them, like literally like 4, 5, 6 of them ran to the door and was trying to open the door. Everybody else in the whole auditorium was standing there just going, ah. Oh, no knowledge of self-preservation. No awareness of self-preservation. They just kind of stood there. And he got him. He didn't try to, spook him. He just opened up his mouth and gave him the full-on deadlights and took all of the kids. And he was heading back, he was cha-cha-chaing down the street, heading back to his home. He was going to feast on them. But that's when the cavalry arrives, you know, and they stopped him. They shot him so many times that he had to crawl. I'm thinking if they could shoot him and hurt him, and in the future, the Losers Club just beat on him until he was incapacitated. Why didn't these full-on adults just keep shooting him? It was clearly working. I mean, you know, you shoot the Hulk, he's still coming. You shoot, you know, a bank robber, he's probably going to fall down and you're going to mess his shirt up. He's probably not getting up, depending on where you shoot him and whatever. But you shoot a demon, and that demon goes, ah, and falls to the ground, and he's in pain, and he has to start crawling. You are obligated to shoot that demon again, as many times and as often as possible. Reload. But they were just like, you know, he's going for the kids. And I'm thinking, well, shoot him again. And I didn't understand this. They were almost as bad as people in the Alien movie when they're trying to contain the alien and they do something stupid. We got to look for it and take a flashlight, walk into that dark corridor and see if you see it. What happens if you see it? If you see it, then you found it. And if you found it, it's found you. And that's the end of that. Why would you do they on all the Alien movies, they do something bizarrely stupid. This episode had a little sprinkle of alien stupidity in it. I didn't understand some of the things that they were doing. And when it was all said and done, they just went about their day. Halloran said he was going to, you know, travel a little bit, and then he had a job working at a hotel. We know where that's going. And, you know, the family was like, yeah, you want to stay in town? Yeah, we might as well. Let's stay in town and make sure, you know, that thing don't get out no more. What? I'm not staying in town. What kind of decision is that? There's not a chance in the world. And Halloran, when he goes to that hotel, the first day he's there, he's going to see all of them ghosts and demons and monsters. His first day should be his last day. But he's clearly going to work there from his, you know, early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, whatever his age was, until he's like 60. He's going to spend 20, 30 years there watching ghosts walk by. And the place was super haunted. I visited the real place in Colorado. The place was super haunted. And that fool was like, yeah, let's do it. Nah. You know, first day, you're supposed to leave. I don't understand the mentality of the people in this movie. But I still enjoyed it. So what's that say about me? I still enjoyed it. And I'm kind of thirsty for the next one. There's going to be at least one more, but there might be 2 sequels. And I want to see what happens. There's a lot I'm leaving out because there was so much stuff, and there was a lot I concentrated on because I needed to say it. But I enjoyed it, and I'm going to give this episode plus the entire season, I would give Welcome to Derry, 9 bags of popcorn. 9 bags of popcorn. Because that's what I think about that. More importantly, what do you think about that? Now that you had a chance to look at the video, let's talk about it some more in the comments. And as always, if you like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. And then like.